and welcome to the Voices of the Vic podcast with me, Mike Duffy, and Joe Thomas is joining me tonight. So tonight it's a special episode. It's the international break, always crap. I cannot stand them, and I cannot for the life of me fathom why they put one so close to the start of the season. But as you would have seen a tweet a few days ago, fear not, we do have some Watford-related content tonight. I'm delighted to say that we are joined by former Hornet Anthony McNamee, and I'll bring Anthony in now. So, Anthony, first things first, thank you very, very much for joining us. How are you doing, mate? You all good?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. I'm good.
Good. Let's start from the very beginning. Basically, how did the move to Watford come about? Did you have trials? Was you scouted? And how old were you when you first signed with the club?
So when I first came on trial, I was 16, just about to go college, and then it was a mad summer for me because I was at a five-a-side tournament and we played against Aldershot. So then I went and played for Aldershot for a few games in pre-season, played in the early rounds of the FA Youth Cup with them, and then they ended up. I think Barnsley was there. He used to be goalkeeper coach at Watford at the time. So he came and he told me to come down at trial at Watford, and I went down there. And then I think my first trial game was against Aston Villa. Done well. And then just before I was about to go sign college, the other thing was the trial. Normal life in London, go to college. And I got a call saying that they want to sign me. So I could move up to into dig with Watford.
Amazing, great that. So in 2002, obviously you made your debut under Gianluca Vialli. Obviously, he was a big legend of a footballer. He was loved by obviously many at Chelsea. He didn't have too much of a good time at Watford. How was he as a manager, and how did he kind of was he much of an influence on you at his time there and as a footballer?
Yeah, he was a big influence. Just the aura of the man, just knowing what he's done in the game. Obviously, I was very young, so it was just a pleasure just to be around him, let alone being picked by him to go and play in the first team. It was unreal, to be honest. So yeah, also his backroom staff, he had like Ray Wilkins there, and it was
he had a good backroom as well, didn't he? It was it was good on paper, wasn't it? Really, it's something that should have worked a lot better than what it did. I think for me, obviously, I was quite young then and watching Watford, and obviously it was exciting getting such a big name as a manager. It was just a shame for me. I really liked him as a player and really hoped it worked out. But obviously, still to this day, there are a lot of people that obviously think that it didn't really go as well as it could have, but I'll always be grateful for someone like that coming in at Watford.
Yeah, I know. Obviously, as a fan, it felt like it didn't go well, but as a player at the time, I might be a bit biased because he gave me my debut and he thought very highly of me. But I feel like if he got given a bit more time, I think he would have built something special because we had a good young players coming through at the time, and I think after he left, it wasn't like we had great times straight after he left either. So it was like, if he gave a bit more time, he knew the players, he had his ideas. But I think what was the mistake, what it was that obviously the caliber of the guy, they expected big signings straight away, which he did. He did bring in the big signings, but then I reckon he noticed that it wasn't working and he tried to go younger. And I think he was about to start working and he got the call to say that he was out the door. It was devastating.
Yeah. There was a few obviously shock names that came through the door. Ramon Vega being one. Obviously that was a huge signing. Obviously he brought in he brought in people like Stephen Glass, didn't he, that year? I think, if I remember rightly.
Yeah, he brought in a lot of players.
There was
in the Premiership and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I mean, Vialli, as you say, did give you your debut. You sort of made a few appearances off the bench that season, and then the last game of that season, you made your full debut against Gillingham. and you started that game. We lost 3-2, but you got your first goal for Watford. How did that feel? Like you've made your debut in that season. You're obviously playing for a manager that you respect a lot and a big name within the football world. And then fast forward the end of that season, you're starting for the first time. And yeah, we lost, but you go and score your first goal. Surely that's up there with one of the best feelings as a professional footballer, right?
Yeah, you can't beat that feeling. Even when I made my debut, I think it was against Coventry, just knowing that I was on the bench and I might get 5-10 minutes, it's unreal because that's what you've been working hard for from you were 16 in the youth team playing all these games, and then now you're finally on the bench. So it's unreal.
When so obviously this the season after, I believe it was, you were loaned out to Barnet. Obviously things didn't quite go to plan for you around that time, did it? Did you think that your Watford career was kind of coming to an end at that point, or did you always think that you'd come back and you'd get another opportunity and it was just a case of going out and getting some game time and getting a bit of a match experience under your belt?
You know, it was, to be totally honest, it's like I don't really talk about it often because it's the past of the past. But I felt like when Vialli left, I was excited for the new season. I've broken in the first team. I felt like the fans were behind me. I felt like I had a lot to offer. And I felt like it just got put to a stop because of a new manager. Do you get what I mean? That had his own
Yeah.
ideas, wanted to bring in his own players. He brought in a lot more older players. So it was just like, I'm here, I'm training every day, but I'm on the bench. I'm on the bench every game, on the bench. If we're losing, I get to come on. I excite the crowd. They ask you, how come I don't start the next game? Still on the bench. So it was just like, for me, it hindered my progress.
Yeah.
I feel like it. And then I went on loan just to play games. It wasn't the right loan move for me, to be honest. But I was just desperate just to get out of the environment at the time because I just felt like I was playing reserves on the bench, reserves on the bench. It was a lot.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. I have my mic muted then. I assume you're on about the time under Ray Lewington, and I think you've pretty much touched upon my next question. Really, well, it's got to be frustrating because it was known at the time that Ray Lewington wanted a left footer, and he had a left footer right in front of him in the form itself. Did you maybe perhaps fall out a bit with Ray and his coaching staff at the time? Because like you said, you know, you were there, you were going to training, everything was pointing in the right direction, but for whatever reason, he didn't want to put you in the team.
See, I don't think I'm a very at that age. I was very within myself. Like I wasn't really outspoken like other players. I was just get on with it. What will be kind of thing. If I could reverse time, I'll be a lot different. But you can't, unfortunately. I don't think I was a problem to the situation. I just felt like he had his own ideas, and I think obviously taking over after a big personality like Gianluca, he probably just wanted to do his own thing. And obviously, I was part of that regime of Gianluca coming in, him speaking highly of me, getting Young Player of the Year. He probably just wanted to stamp his own mark on the team, which unfortunately for me, I wasn't part of that.
Yeah, the obviously you said obviously Lewington wanted to stamp his own mark on the team. Obviously, he was around for a couple of years, wasn't he? And he got sacked just before the end of the 04-05 season, where AD came in towards the end of that season. I'll kind of go into the next question in a minute, but kind of what was the feeling amongst the team with obviously Lewington going, who was quite experienced, obviously as a manager. We were obviously in a bad position and needing to get a couple of results to stay in the league. Like, what did the players think about AD being quite inexperienced coming in, and what was the mood like, so to speak?
I think the mood was, because at the time I think we had a struggle with the older pros and the younger pros. There weren't really no middle ground there, kind of thing. It felt like the older pros were going to play no matter what, and the younger ones was just there to fill in if needed, kind of thing. But I think when AD came in, he kind of went young straight away. I remember, I think one of his first games was Rotherham, and I was on the bench, and he kind of went young. Dominic Blizzard was playing. Like he kind of went young, and it was refreshing because it made me feel like, okay, there's a chance for me now to kind of get myself back in there and start playing, because I felt like I owed a lot to Watford, because they're the club that gave me my chance. I came from Sunday League, pretty much Sunday League straight to Watford. I never played for no other team or anything, kind of thing. So Watford was my kind of, this is my team kind of thing. So it was like it was a new start for me when AD came in, and I was willing to go through and take my chance, kind of thing.
Yeah, and obviously that season, obviously we stayed up, which was amazing. Obviously we got a couple of good results. Obviously beating Rotherham, beating Stoke, obviously to stay in the league. I remember I was at that Stoke game, and it was a fantastic game for all the fans, obviously knowing that we were safe at that point. Obviously going into the next season, you made 26 league appearances, coming off the bench 12 times, scoring once as well against QPR in that 3-1 home win. What did you, as the season went on, obviously AD brought in a lot of new players over that summer. I remember I've talked about this quite a lot. Even I don't know if you remember this, like right up to the day before Preston at home. I think the day before Clark Carlisle was signed, and he was thrown straight into the starting 11 on the Saturday. So he brought in a lot of new players that season. As the season kind of progressed, like, where would you say that the belief was starting to come in that we were actually going to be in the playoffs at the end of the season, obviously, because we didn't have any right really to be anywhere near that position at the beginning of the season. So
I think AD brought in a lot of warriors. I think he got it just right. I don't know how he done it or what he was thinking, but he got that squad just right, because as you can tell, we didn't have no superstar players that's meant to have got us out the league. He brought in Marlon King, finisher. He worked well with Ashley Young. You know what I mean? We worked for everyone. Jordan Stewart came in, character, great for the change room, great left back. Clark Carlisle, great lad as well. So and then I think Danny Shue came in as well, didn't he?
There was James Chambers came in that season as well, I believe.
What a guy James Chambers is.
He was brilliant right back, wasn't
he? Yeah, left back, right back, he was filling anyway. Like centre midfield, he wanted to play, but we had a good squad there. We had a good squad. We had that. It was just great, man. The way he put that squad together, the young players, Alban Gora coming through. You had people like Joel Grant was in and out of it. So Mariappa, it was good. Everyone felt like they had a chance to do something to help us.
Yeah, that three of Henderson, King, and Young that season. I think I talk again. There's another thing I talk about quite a lot. They scored, I think, a combined 53 goals between that season, which was just outrageous. Because really, on paper, at the beginning of the season, I think after the first 2 or 3 games, I think we had a couple of dodgy results, didn't we? And it was like, oh, is this going to work? But then it just suddenly clicked, didn't it? And it just kicked on from there.
Yeah, I think the backroom stuff. Everyone believed in it, if you get what I mean. Like Birkinshaw and Dave Hockaday. It was amazing, because obviously I worked with Dave from the youth level. So now he was with the first team. It felt like home to me again. Do you know what I mean? Like I had someone who I knew rated me from the youth days in and around the first team now. So it felt a lot more comfortable than it did before underneath Ray, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it was good.
You mentioned quite a few names there. One of the names you mentioned about being, good in the dressing room, Jordan Stewart, and well, I totally get that. We've had him on this podcast before, and he's just a good vibes kind of guy, man. Like when you're chatting to him, like you just get that aura from him. Who would you say was the most influential in the changing room that season because, like you said, AD brought in a lot of warriors that season, and like Joe alluded to, none of us Watford fans expected us to go up that season. You know, we just about survived the season before, so there must have been some real strong-headed characters. But is there one in particular for you that stands out that he was always rallying the troops? Because I mean, you might mention it in a sec, but we've had Kingy on, we've had Stewart on, and both of them have said, especially for the playoff final, that game was won in the tunnel because mentally, like, they just psyched Leeds out. So there's got to be some strong characters in that changing room that season.
There was so much there. It was Clark Carlisle, you had Danny Shitu, you had Demerit. Demerit was. I remember when Demerit first came to Watford, we used to catch the train together and stuff like that. So I knew they struggled. You know what I mean? This is when he was on trial and stuff. He was quality, but I think the main glue was I reckon it was probably off field and probably Jordan Stewart, to be honest, because he was my roommate. So we had lots of fun. He was a very funny, bubbly character. You know what I mean? And it didn't matter whether he would make the manager laugh in situations that I think that made the boys more relaxed. It weren't too serious, if you know what I mean. On the pitch, King's goals, you can't replace it. And Young was just very influential through the whole season, King and Young. And then you had like Henderson kicking in when things got gritty and hard. You know you could put the ball up there and he's just going to elbow his way through to the goal. So the nucleus of the team is excellent.
Yeah, Henderson. I remember that season. I don't know if you remember. Do you remember Leeds away we had him on a Tuesday night, and we were on a really good run away from home at that point. Yeah. I think we'd gone in and we'd beaten Norwich away, Luton away, Sheffield United away, Brighton away. Then we followed it up with Leeds away.
Didn't Foster get sent off and Chamberlain had to go in?
Foster got sent off and Henderson got sent off as well. Henderson proper went full war, like you say. He went like Hulk because he had his shirt ripped. He went in. He was proper kicking off, wasn't he?
Proper MMA style, that guy, man. Them elbows are sharp. Careful.
Yeah, that was a good night. That was a night. We were chanting that Mariappa song. He's going to score a goal. You know, literally for like half an hour that night. It was an insane night in the away end. It was brilliant. Obviously, like for the semi-finals, you were named on the bench in both the home and away semi-final.
Yeah.
When it got to the playoff final, you didn't obviously make the squad. Unfortunately, did Boothroyd kind of give you a heads up in advance of that was going to be coming?
I got injured. I pulled my thigh in training.
Oh, you're joking.
Yeah, and I was trying my hardest to work back into it, but every time I went back out to try it, it would pull again. So I was just out of it. It was one of the worst feelings ever. Just annoying. Obviously, I was kind of involved in every single game up to that final.
Yeah.
So it was devastating, but I just couldn't get fit enough to even to be there. So I just had to have my suit on and rally the boys on from the side.
Yeah. Did I take it? Did AD kind of say, had you been fit, you would have been in my squad for the final? Did he just not really mention anything?
Well, I thought I would have, because if I was on the bench for the semi-final, so it was nothing. The amount of days till the final, nothing really could have changed. It weren't like there was any games in between where I could have lost form or.
Yeah, of course.
I thought I would have made it on the bench at least anyway.
Yeah.
They have got to be up there with probably some of my favourite Watford games. That one away at Crystal Palace. I don't know if you went, Joe. I mean, I was only 10 years old at the time, but it was brilliant. And then I seem to remember the home game was probably the most entertaining draw I've ever seen. It had it all. I think Fitzhall and AD kicked off, and obviously Fitzhall later played for Watford. And then I think there was a pitch invader as well, and the stewards were chasing him around, and they couldn't catch him. So that was quite some entertaining draw. That's got to be up there with one of the most entertaining.
That was made for us. I think that was just God's plan, really. That the whole how everything happened. When we got to the final, there was no way we were going to lose that. Not a chance. We were never going to lose it. I think all the boys knew it as well.
Yeah. Any one of them has said, Kingley and Stewart said in the change in the tunnel that day, they just looked at Leeds and Leeds were like, shit, like these boys are mean business. So we sort of won that mental battle in the tunnel by the sounds of it. But we obviously resulted in a 3-0 win against Leeds, and we made it to the Premier League. And you made 7 appearances for Watford in the Premier League, but sort of it's a similar question to earlier, really, when I was talking about your first professional goal. You mentioned it earlier. You've gone from pretty much playing Sunday League football to making your professional debut with Watford, and then sort of 4 or 5 years later, you're a Premier League player. I mean, you must have been pinching yourself.
I was, but I was kind of disappointed in a way as well. How my career was kind of going. You know what I mean? Because I feel like when I look back at it now, there was 2-3 seasons where I didn't do anything. Like it might have felt like I was doing something because I was making 10 sub appearance, 10 minutes, doing well, but for my progression of my career, it was nonsense. If you know what I mean, like when I look back at, if I were to look back at my stats, I think for the 2 seasons I was on the bench probably nearly most of the games, and I probably started 1 game, which was the last game of the season. Like it's just like I'm just here. Like it wasn't good for my development. If you know what I mean, I could have done a lot more. And that's the reason why I think when I did start playing, because I played the first half of that promotional season, and then I think after December, I think I was on the bench mostly after. But that's because I was short. I was mentally, I wasn't used to playing that game at that level. You know what I mean? Where even though I've been on the scene for 4 years, 4 or 5 years, the energy was gone. You know what I mean? Like and that's why AB was good, because then we brought in Chris Eagles and refreshed everything, and Hamid Watson started making his way in. So it was like, for me, it was difficult seeing it, but I understand it now that I'm older, that I never played 26 games in a row before at that level in my life, and I was probably 22, and I made my debut at 17. So it was like, it's a bit, I feel like my development was hindered a lot under Ray Luton. I'm not playing, but being there, I was just there. I don't know why I was there, because I was on the bench every day. You know what I mean? I wasn't. One story, I wasn't allowed to go play for England under 18s because he wanted me on the bench for the Watford. But Jamie Hand, who was been starting, was allowed to go to England on the same call that I was on, and he was a starter. So it was like, why am I not allowed to go? You know what I mean? It was just little things like that that just kept happening, and then the questions of my asthma and stuff kept coming up. I can't play 90 minutes, but I played reserve 90 minutes. Then I've come and sit in the deck. It was just a lot was happening, man.
Yeah, obviously you mentioned Chris Eagles coming in to Watford. That so he was massively influential in that second half of the season, wasn't he? He came in January, didn't he, and played the second half of the season. I remember, like, we went to all the, well, obviously he scored the famous goal from the halfway line, didn't he, at Brighton, which was still to this day. I was sat in that away end at, it was Brighton's old ground we were at, and I remember it before the rain, and we were in that, like, well, it was like scaffolding around an athletics track, wasn't it, then at Brighton? And the ball
they had a little house in the away end, didn't they?
Yeah, it was so random, and he hit the ball, and we were all looking at it thinking, surely not, and it went in. We were like, wow.
Yeah, his ability was crazy though, man. He was talented that way.
Yeah, he was good. Did he play in the playoff final? I'm trying to think.
I think he was. I know he was there. Did he start? He must have. I think he did start.
Yeah, I think he did. Yeah, I was going to say I don't remember him too much. It sounds awful, but yeah, he was there. I loved him. I was really hoping we would sign him on a permanent deal somehow. We just never came about.
He was too good to sign off. The season he had, that second half season he had, he probably could have went to a lot of clubs.
Yeah.
Eagle didn't start, by the way. He was he wasn't used. I think he put Spring.
Spring wide.
Spring he was playing.
Spring wide and Youngie the other side probably.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah.
And
That's what I mean. I don't remember him because I remember being there thinking, how's he not starting Eagles? This is a huge call.
But even with him, he was probably knackered as well because he probably wasn't used to playing that much amount of games because he wasn't really playing often at Man United at all. So he was probably mentally fried as well. Probably why his form dipped as well. So that's the only reason he probably didn't play because the ability he had, it wouldn't make no sense to him. So.
Yeah, obviously that Premier League season, I know obviously you didn't play too much, but you played at West Ham in that FA Cup win and scored a great goal, and obviously we had a great away day at Upton Park. We didn't have too many good away days that season, did we? But it must have been a good feeling seeing. I remember there just being crazy scenes behind that goal. It was must have been a good feeling to play and score that season.
Yeah, see, I've always got stories about this. My family always asks me these questions. So, before the game, when we was at the hotel, AD pretty much said to me, "Look, this is your last chance," kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? Go and do something. And I went and scored. And then the next game, I think I was on the bench again, and then that was it. I was over. It was done after that. So
really.
Yeah, so it was just like, I don't know, what do I need to do here? You know what I mean? So
what more can you do? You just scored an overhead kick. We've won the game.
Yeah,
that's what I mean. So yeah, football's a weird thing, and everyone has their opinions, and opinions change.
You were sent to obviously after that season, you were sent to Crewe on loan.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then in January, you were sold to Swindon Town in League One. Like when you left Watford, and obviously you found yourself at a new club, then permanently. How did you kind of like sum up your time at Watford then? And were you kind of disappointed where you'd gone, or were you excited and relishing a new challenge, or was it kind of mixed feelings?
It was mixed feelings because I knew when I leave, I'm gonna play often. You get what I mean? And that's all. As a footballer, that's all you want to do. You just wanna play. Like obviously, in my family, I was pretty much the first player to play football. Like at this level. Do you get what I mean? So I didn't have no one to call upon and say, look, this is what you think you should play. Everything was happening. So everyone was just happy for me. You played professional football, even though within myself it was hard. I didn't really enjoy it at a stage when I'm just here sitting down on the bench week in, week out. Do you know what I mean? But there was no one to really have that conversation with. So going to Swindon and playing regular was amazing for me. Do you get what I mean? But still looking at the Watford results and seeing some other players that are still there and the players they brought in, thinking, oh, I can do that. If you know what I mean, like just Watford my club, I could be there. Like, but that's like I said, it's the football. So when I went to Swindon, it was a great thing for me personally. But I would have wished it would have still been at Watford. If you get what I mean.
Yeah.
Would you? What would you say your favourite game in a Watford shirt was?
I think it might have been my first start. I think it was against Portsmouth. I think Portsmouth away at Portsmouth Ground. I think front three was me, Webber, and Marcus Gill. Yeah, I think that was my favourite moment.
Yeah, he was another good player, wasn't he? Gale, he was brilliant. I remember him when he came in, and he was excited.
He was good in it. He was very good with the youngsters. Like there was a lot of older pros there, but he understood the youngsters. So he didn't have no resentment to the youngsters if he wasn't playing a younger guy was playing. There was a few of the pros that, you know what I mean? They was a bit older, they wanted to play every week, and it's just about them. But Marcus wasn't like that. He helped me out well. He helped Ashley Young out really well. He was like a father figure to a lot of us there.
Yeah. Obviously, going into kind of the next question, then, who would you say your your best player, the best player was at the club during your time at Watford? Like, who was the best player to be around and the best player kind of to encourage others? Obviously, you mentioned Gail was one there. I'm sure there were probably a few others, maybe.
Gail was one. One of the best. Well, Michael Hyde was excellent.
Right.
Just in training and in games, he never lost the ball. He didn't shoot often, but the way he just controlled the ball was just. When I saw him play, it was just like, is this how good professional footballers are, kind of thing. And in training with him and seeing the way he just moved that ball around, his passing, his movement. Yeah, he was. I would say him footballing wise, and he was good with me off the pitch as well. Danny Webber, when he came in, he was sharp like a razor. It was like this was what Man United players are all about. He was quick, sharp, finisher. He was quality, man.
Yeah, the way he used to be able to turn over football was absolutely ridiculous, wasn't it? Like, there were so many times when you'd see him with his back to goal and think, probably not really going to do anything here. But the way he used to be able to turn people and he'd be able to get a run on someone with just one touch of a ball was just phenomenal. He was
amazing,
fantastic over his time at Watford, I thought.
Yeah, he was quality. Good guy as well, man. I still speak to him now. He's a nice guy, man.
That sort of answers my next question. Did you keep in touch with any of the lads from your time at Watford?
Yeah, I saw Marcus Gill the other day. Yeah, he's still the same. I saw him. I went to go watch my cousin play at Fulham, and he was there with Brentford, so we ended up catching up. So yeah, I had a nice little talk with him. I see Michael Hyde a few little times. I always speak to Jordan, even though he's out in America living his life. Speak to him on Instagram a few times. So yeah, I still speak to a few there. Mariappa. I used to speak to Jamie Collins. Don't know if you remember him from the youth team.
Yeah, Jamie Collins, yeah.
Yeah, Ben Hurd, I spoke to him a few years back.
Oh, Ben Hurd, blimey, yeah, isn't he? I've not heard for a while.
Yeah, so yeah.
I just want to go a little bit rogue, actually. Just with obviously talking about Danny Webber. I know recently Watford did. I can't believe it's been 20 years since Jimmy Davis sadly passed away. Like, kind of, what was the? Because I remember. I remember the day like it was like last week. Is frightening, really. I remember we were due to play Coventry at home that day. I used to go every week, or I still do now. I go with one of my best friends to football, and we were walking down to the ground really early, obviously excited for the opening day of the season and stuff. And then there were just like whispers that the game had been called off. They didn't kind of say what the reason was or anything at the time, but it was then obviously apparent that something serious had happened and Jimmy sadly passed away. Kind of how was it among the players and stuff? Obviously, I know Danny was like best of friends.
Yeah, because Danny knew him from when he was young.
Yeah.
My experience with that was that he was, when he came in, he was a winger. He was in my position as well. So
he was a left winger.
And he's like, he plays for Man United. Like, he's a good player. Like, but it felt like he wasn't here for long. Do you know what I mean? I'm not too sure how long. So it's not like I got to know him personally like that. But him and Danny were so close. So anyone that Danny's around, he has to be a good person. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, I think I can't remember how we found out about it. I don't even think we probably found out the same way all the fans found it. Because if it was a home game, we wouldn't have been at training before the game. So
no.
So we probably found out through knowing that the game was cancelled, kind of thing. And then probably the next day we found out the details of it and had our little meeting and stuff like that. But yeah, that's scary, man. Just like, you don't think stuff like that happens, like in life, let alone football. Like, the players died, he's not here no more. It was just real.
Yeah, because I remember seeing him. I went to a few pre-season games that season. I think one I remember was QPR away, and he played, and it was frightening, obviously, because we had Danny as well, and he looked amazing, and it was like, wow, this is going to be like, could be some season with like players of this quality in the team, because obviously we didn't really have much money then. and to sign good players like that on loan.
He was different level, man. He was quality, man. A little period I see what the training and stuff, you could see like again, it was just that whole we're Watford, he's coming from Man United, Sir Alex Ferguson. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, let's really see what he's got, and you can see it, man. Anytime we got a lone player from Man United, they were just different. Just different.
Yeah, so obviously, it's been a while since you obviously left Watford. Have you been back to the Vic much since you?
I haven't been back since I left. Never been back.
No way, really? Not one game?
Not one game.
Is that just through choice, or you've just not got the chance, or?
I've always felt like I'd wanted to go back, but I've gone back and played there. I played there when I was at Norwich. I think I played there. When I went to Norwich, I came back to it, and that was unreal. Like, that felt weird. You know what I mean? Like, it felt like I'm wearing yellow, but it's not the yellow I'm meant to be wearing. You know what I mean, yeah? So it was weird. It was just like, yeah. But I haven't been back personally, like, since then. I haven't watched the game. I don't know if there's a bit of bitterness towards it or what, but I don't know.
It's interesting because they often invite ex-players along, and I think they try and tally it up with who we're playing. And, you know, it seems like we only ever play Norwich at times. Like, we've played them so much recently. We're always in the same division. You'd think, you know, Norwich at home, oh, who's played for both? Oh, McNamee, let's get him over as a guest or something. So that does surprise me, to be honest. But at the same time, with the way that things have been at the club recently, and, you know, a lot of decisions above, in, you know, upstairs have been made, I suppose it's perhaps not too much of a shock that things like that are happening.
And that's probably why I haven't been back as well, because of the every minute something's changing. It's like, who's still there that will be there when I was still? It was like, it would be a bit weird if these new people are in there now. You know what I mean? They won't really know me. I don't know them.
I take it, do you keep an eye out for Watford in the results every Saturday or every time they're playing? Or
yeah, of course. Yeah, Watford's that's my team. That's my first team that gave me my chance, man. I owe a lot to Watford.
Yeah, I see that is your first Watford shirt, isn't it? Over your shoulder there.
That's my first one.
Yeah. I remember your number. Was you always 33, or did you change?
I've got changed a few times. I was 33 on the first one, and then Vialli, because the next season Vialli got sacked, but he gave me 16. So I was buzzing. I think from 33 to 16, I was like, yeah. And then I think that got taken off me that season after. I ended up getting, I think, 24 or something like that for a season or something like that, and then I ended up going back down when AD came to 19. So,
well, just before we finish, what are you doing nowadays? I must admit, I tried to do as much research as I could. The last I saw that you were doing, you were appointed manager of a team in the Combined Counties League called Enfield Borough. You still doing that, or what is it you're doing nowadays?
I'm not there at the minute. I've still got good connections with the club. Obviously, they gave me my first opportunity to be around football there. You know what I mean? But mostly, me and the two other guys, we started a grassroots club for kids in Battersea, which is going really well. So we've got a club called FC Battersea. My age group, we just won the London Cup last season. We won the treble before Pep ran it. So we're buzzing with that. That's what we told the kids.
Yeah.
We've got about 70 boys now, 4 teams.
Wow.
So
that's fantastic.
That's the main thing I'm doing at the minute.
Yeah, I've managed in the last 2 seasons in grassroots at adult, and I know how much time and effort that can take up, and how much work has to go into it. So I take my hat off to you massively. But really appreciate your time today, Anthony. It's been a pleasure to speak to you, and you know you were in the squad when I was. That was when my sort of Watford supporting life was sort of just kicked in for me basically, and they were some good times. So it's been good to catch up and reminisce, and I hope that it works out for you at FC Battersea, and hopefully you gain a few Watford fans after listening to this. But I really do appreciate your time today, Anthony.
Yeah, thanks so much.
No